Listen close and feel the chill that creeps from the shadows. Objects you see, they hold echoes. Some are faint whispers of laughter or sorrow. Others, others are screaming prisons of wood and rust, binding horrors that refuse to rest. This is a tale of one such object, purchased for its outward form, ignorant of the soul it held captive. Elias Thorne inherited the old stone cottage perched on the lonely edge of the greywood. It was less a home, more a tomb-breathing dam, ancient air, sparse and forgotten. It needed life, warmth, or at least furniture. Wandering through the cluttered halls of a defunct antique auction house in the nearby desolate hamlet of Etheria, Elias saw it. A towering armoire of aged, blood-red mahogany, its surface scarred with time's cruel hand. There was a strange, almost sickly sweetness in the air around it, mingling with the dust and decay. An unsettling presence seemed to cling to the polished wood, a silent promise whispered on a dead wind. Yet it was sturdy, needed, and cheap. A bargain, he thought. Bringing it back to the cottage was a struggle, the armoire seeming to resist, heavier than its size suggested. Once placed in the main chamber, it dominated the space, a silent, crimson sentinel. The first night, the cottage seemed to grow colder, a deep, bone-chilling cold that radiated from the armoire itself, even though a fire crackled bravely in the hearth. Elias dismissed it as the old building settling, the drafts from the ancient stone. But the sounds began the second night. Faint scratches from within the wood, like fingernails on the inside. A soft, rhythmic tapping that mirrored a desperate plea. Then a low, mournful hum, just at the edge of hearing, a melody of infinite sadness. Elias would wake in a cold sweat, the distinct feeling of being watched heavy upon him, his gaze invariably drawn to the dark, unblinking mass of the armoire. Objects on nearby surfaces would be found slightly shifted in the morning, always closer to the crimson behemoth. A pervasive sense of dread settled upon him, thick and suffocating as grave sorrow. Sleep became a luxury, replaced by anxious vigilance under the armoire's silent watch. Driven by a gnawing unease, a morbid curiosity that felt less like his own thought and more like a foreign impulse planted in his mind, Elias began to examine the armoire more closely. He ran his hands over its rough, aged surface, prodding for irregularities. The strange scent was stronger now, tinged with something metallic and foam. It took hours, tracing the intricate carvings that seemed to writhe and twist under his touch, before he found it. A hairline seam along an inner panel, invisible to the casual glance. With trembling fingers, he pressed and pulled. A soft click echoed in the silent room, and a narrow, hidden compartment sprang open. The air that rushed out was thick with the stench of dust, decay, and something else. Something ancient and sorrowful. Inside, nestled on frayed velvet lining, wasn't gold or jewels. It was a single, yellow piece of parchment and a small, tarnished silver locket. A parchment contained a hurried, nearly illegible scroll, a diary entry perhaps, dated centuries ago. It spoke of being confined, of the darkness, of a cruel fate sealed within the blood-red box. It mentioned a new era, and then a final, desperate plea for release, for light, before the writing dissolved into smeared ink, as if tears had fallen upon it. The locket, when opened, revealed nothing but a single strand of fine, dark hair and the faint, faded impression of a small finger pressed into the metal. The realization struck Elias like a physical blow. Someone had been sealed inside, imprisoned within the very wood that now stood in his chamber. Not just killed, but contained. And as the thought solidified, the temperature in the room plummeted. The air crackled with unseen energy. From within the armoire, the scratching intensified, no longer faint, but frantic, desperate. The mournful hum rose in pitch, becoming a keening wail that tore at Elias's sanity. He backed away, horror seizing him. The shadows in the room deepened, stretching and twisting into grotesque shapes. The armoire itself seemed to grow larger, its crimson surface pulsing with a faint internal light. The hinges of its massive doors creaked open just a fraction, revealing only impenetrable blackness within, yet the wail poured out, a torrent of agony and rage. And then he saw her. A flicker of movement in the blackness, a pale face, gaunt and twisted in perpetual terror, eyes wide and pleading, framed by dark hair that was perhaps the source of the strand in the locket. It was Alara. Her spectral form seemed bound to the armoire, her essence trapped within its wood. She didn't speak with words, but her suffering screamed into his mind, a psychic assault of centuries of darkness and despair. The presence surged out, invisible hands pushing against his chest, stealing his breath. The air thrummed with malevolent energy. The scratches became violent thuds from inside the armoire, as if the prison itself was being assailed from within by the tormented soul it held. Elias stumbled back, the locket falling from his nerveless fingers to clatter on the stone floor. He had found her secret, opened her prison, but she was not free. She was bound, and her agony was now infecting him. The scent of dust and decay intensified, now undeniably mingled with the coppery taint of old blood. He saw images flash in his mind, a small hand reaching out, a door slamming shut, the sound of a key turning, the slow creep of darkness and despair. He knew with chilling certainty that Alara's spirit was intrinsically linked to the armoire. To destroy one might destroy the other, but the presence felt too ancient, too powerful to simply burn away. He scrambled for the cottage door, the spectral wail chasing him, the feeling of ghostly fingers clawing at his back. As he burst out into the cold night air, leaving the door wide open to the horrors within, he dared a glance back. The cottage windows glowed with a faint, pulsing crimson light emanating from the armoire's chamber. The screams were no longer confined. They spilled out into the night, mingling with the rustling leaves of the grey wood, a lament that would echo forever from the house on the lonely edge. Elias ran, but the cold, the scent, the wail of the trapped soul, he knew they would follow. Some prisons are made of wood, others of memory and fear. And sometimes, by opening the wrong door, you simply invite the prisoner to share your cell. The crimson sentinel remained, waiting,